The floor fell out from under my feet the day I found my wife's secret diary. I always consider myself a steady man. My name is David, and my life, up until that point, had followed a predictable, comfortable script. I grew up in the quiet, lake-adjacent town of Cedarbrook, where my father ran a hardware store and my mother taught at the elementary school. They were salt-of-the-earth people who believed in showing up, telling the truth, and fixing what's broken. I absorbed those values like gospel. After state college, I became a civil engineer, designing bridges and roadways. There's a profound satisfaction in creating something that is stable, safe, and built to last. I suppose I approach my personal life with the same philosophy. That's why the sheer, calculated chaos I uncovered left me reeling, utterly unequipped to process the betrayal. It began, as these things often do, not with a bang, but with a series of quiet, almost imperceptible cracks. My wife, Lena, and I met 8 years ago at a friend's wedding. I was the best man. She was a college roommate of the bride. She was a vision, sharp, witty, with a laugh that could cut through the stiffest crowd. A rising talent in interior design, she had an eye for beauty and a drive that both intimidated and enthralled me. We were opposites in many ways. She was spontaneous and emotionally vivid, while I was methodical and reserved. Yet it felt complementary. She brought color to my structured world, and I offered, or so I thought, a harbor for her storms. After 2 years of dating, I proposed during a weekend trip to the coast. She said yes through happy tears, and we married the next spring. The first 5 years were genuinely good. We bought a mid-century modern house on the outskirts of the city, a fixer-upper that became our shared project. Lena transformed it into a showpiece, and I handled the structural updates. We talked about children, but we agreed to wait until her business was more established and I'd made senior engineer. We had a rhythm. Weekend projects, Friday night dinners at our favorite Italian spot, quiet evenings reading side by side. It felt like partnership. It felt like forever. The shift was gradual, a slow leak rather than a rupture. Lena's design firm started landing bigger commercial contracts. Her hours grew longer, her travel more frequent. Initially, I was proud of her. I'd pack her suitcase, leave encouraging notes, and hold down the fort. But the fatigue began to morph into something else, a distance. She became more critical of the house, of our routines. Subtly of me, my steady nature, once a comfort, was now labeled predictable. My careful planning became rigidity. Then came the new friend, Adrian. He was a photographer Lena hired for a high-profile portfolio project. Suddenly, his name was everywhere. Adrian says the lighting in this room is all wrong. Adrian thinks we should be more adventurous. I'm meeting Adrian for a psych consult. He was from her world, artsy, nomadic, full of big ideas and, I suspected, flattery. I felt a primal unease, but I choked it down. Accusing my wife of something over a professional friendship would make me the insecure, controlling husband. I trusted her. I had to trust her. The first real red flag was the weekend getaway. Lena announced she needed a solo trip to a design retreat in the mountains to recenter. She was stressed, she said, and needed space. I supported it, wanting her to be happy. But a nagging doubt made me, for the first time in our marriage, check our shared credit card statement. There was no charge from any retreat center. Instead, there was a hefty bill from a romantic, secluded lodge 3 hours in the opposite direction. When I cautiously asked about the retreat's name, her answer was vague, and she quickly changed the subject. My heart sank, but I still had no proof. The digital coldness followed. Her phone, once left casually on the coffee table, now never left her person. She started using a passcode she changed frequently, something she'd never done before. She'd take calls in the garden, speaking in hushed, intense tones. One evening, Her laptop was open on the kitchen counter while she ran to answer the door. A messaging app was open. I saw only one phrase before the screen went dark. Can't keep lying to him. It's killing me. The sender's name was A. Confrontation led to gaslighting. When I asked, voice trembling, who A was and what she couldn't keep lying about, Lena's reaction was masterful. She was hurt, devastated, even that I would spy on her. The message was from a client, Amanda, she claimed, who was lying to her own husband about budget overruns. Lena spun a tale of female solidarity and client confidentiality. She cried. She asked how I could think so little of her. The accused, ended up apologizing, feeling like a brute for doubting my beautiful, stressed wife. The seed of truth was buried under an avalanche of performative emotion. The true horror, however, was still hidden. It came to light because of a power outage. A storm knocked out the electricity for an afternoon. Lena was out. Bored, I decided to clean out the closet in her home office, a space I usually respected as her own. In the back, behind a box of old fabric samples, was a small, fireproof lockbox I'd never seen. My engineer's mind noted it was a simple model. The storm had put me in a strange, determined mood. It took me 20 minutes with a paperclip and a feeling of profound self-loathing to open it. Inside wasn't jewelry or documents. It was a leather-bound journal, Lena's secret diary. And it wasn't a record of feelings. It was a blueprint for destruction. The entries began innocuously about a year prior, musing on marital boredom. Then Adrian entered the pages. The infatuation was detailed, graphic even, but it quickly evolved beyond the affair. Lena wrote of Adrian's influence, his dreams of moving to Europe, of starting fresh. The problem, of course, was me and our financial entanglement. The house, my retirement fund, our joint savings. The plan was outlined with chilling clarity. Phase 1, erode trust. She documented making subtle critiques, picking fights over nothing, and then playing the victim to make me seem emotionally volatile. Phase 2, financial isolation. She was slowly funneling small amount of money into a new private account, documenting excuses she could use if I noticed. Phase 3, the catalyst. This was where my blood turned to ice. They planned to stage a discovery. Adrian had a friend who would pose as a stranger I'd supposedly wronged. This person would call the house, send vague messages, even show up at my work to create a scene, claiming I was having an affair and was a dangerous man. The goal was to create such public chaos and doubt that I would be emotionally destabilized and willing to agree to an unfavorable divorce settlement just to make it stop. They wanted the house, a large portion of my savings, and a clean, blame-free break for Lena, painted as a long-suffering wife finally escaping her unstable husband. I sat on the floor of her office, the journal in my hands, the storm raging outside. The woman I loved, whose neck I had kissed just that morning, was not just cheating. She was conducting a long-term, premeditated operation to dismantle my life and my sanity for profit, and a new start with another man. The values my parents instilled in me, honesty, loyalty, felt like naive jokes in this new, grotesque reality. I didn't confront her. Not then. The shock gave way to a cold, focused rage. I would not be her victim. I photographed every damning page with my phone. I returned the journal to the lockbox to the closet, exactly as I found it. I became an actor in my own life, playing the part of the increasingly confused but still trusting husband. I was careful, gentle, overly supportive, feeding her belief that her manipulation was working. Meanwhile, I lawyered up. I found a razor-sharp divorce attorney named Mrs. Henderson and showed her my evidence. She was appalled and impressively strategic. We began quietly securing my finances, opening my own accounts and documenting everything. I hired a private investigator who quickly confirmed Adrian's details and his lack of substantial income. The PI also discovered Adrian was not as committed as Lena believed. He was seeing other people during her work trips. The climax came sooner than I expected. Lena, emboldened by my perceived docility, announced she needed another retreat, this time to finalize a major project proposal. The dates coincided with a photography conference Adrian was registered for in a city 4 states away. It was time. The night before she was to leave, I cooked her favorite meal. Over dessert, I smiled sadly and said, "Lena, I know about the conference. I know about Adrian. I know about the lockbox and the journal and the plan with the fake scorned lover." The color drained from her face. It was a complete, utter wipe. She opened her mouth, but no sound came out. The rehearsed tears, the deflections, none of them surfaced. She was caught, utterly and completely, in the trap she'd built for me. "The game is over," I said, my voice unnervingly calm. "My lawyer will be in touch. You will be served with divorce papers, based on the evidence of your conspiracy to defraud and emotionally manipulate me, which includes your own written words. My lawyer advises me that you'll be entitled to far less than you planned for. In fact, given the premeditation, we will be pursuing a claim for intentional infliction of emotional distress." She finally found her voice, a shattered whisper. "David, it wasn't. I didn't mean. You meant every word." I said, standing up, "I've already packed a bag. I'll be staying elsewhere. Do not contact me unless it's through Mrs. Henderson." I placed a card with the lawyer's details on the table. "The locks will be changed tomorrow. You have until the end of the week to collect your things from the premises. The PI has photos of the journal's contents, and copies are with my lawyer. If you or Adrian attempt any part of your catalyst phase, or if you try to smear my reputation, they will be made public immediately." I walked out of the house I had helped build, leaving her in the stunning silence of her own ruin. There was no screaming, no dramatic fight, just the quiet, final click of the door. The divorce proceedings were brutal but swift. Confronted with the journal entries, Lena's lawyer had little room to maneuver. She had hoped for a large settlement in the house. She walked away with only her personal savings, which were modest, and a small sum we'd agreed upon to avoid a drawn-out public trial. The house was sold, and the proceeds were split in my favor due to the circumstances. Adrian, when he realized Lena came with no financial windfall and a mountain of legal trouble, vanished from the scene entirely. The final twist came 6 months after the papers were signed. I received a letter from Lena. Not an email, but a handwritten letter. It was full of the therapy speak she'd likely learned in counseling, accountability, self-reflection. She admitted the totality of her betrayal, not just the affair, but the cruel, calculated nature of her plan. She wrote that in trying to destroy me, she had destroyed herself, that Adrian had been a mirror for her own emptiness. She apologized, not asking for forgiveness, but stating it as a fact she needed to express. She said she was moving back to her hometown to live with her sister. I read the letter once, then set aside. The apology changed nothing. It didn't heal the wounds or restore trust, but it did provide a punctuation mark. It was an end. I took the job transfer I'd been offered in a coastal city far away. My work now involves designing resilient infrastructure, things meant to withstand tremendous pressure. There's a poetry in it that I appreciate. I live in a small apartment with a view of the ocean, a vast, cleansing expanse of blue. The quiet is no longer lonely. It is peaceful. I see a therapist to untangle the knots of betrayal, and I've started to tentatively date again. Someone kind and straightforward who works as a marine biologist. She studies tidal patterns, the reliable, honest pull to moon. I find great comfort in that. The past is a scar, not an open wound. I learned that the bridges we build in our personal lives require more than engineering principles. They require mutual respect, a foundation of truth, and constant, vigilant care. I also learned that when you find termites in the pilings, no matter how beautiful the structure above, sometimes you have to condemn it and build anew on solid ground. I am building again, slowly, carefully, and this time for myself.